Hello, boys and girls. Welcome back, boys and girls. I hope you are staying healthy and staying safely. So, today we will be listening to a story. But guess what? The past few stories took place in where? Do you remember? At Jataka's monastery, right? At Anathapindika's monastery. But this story took place in Rajagaha at the Veluvanara. So this is where Supreme Buddha was residing at the time. So this is how the story goes. There are two parts to the story. So something that happened at the time of the Supreme Buddha, and there's a Jataka tale too. So are you ready, boys and girls? Let's get started. So at the time of the Supreme Buddha, boys and girls, there was this a daughter of a very wealthy merchant, just like Anathapindika, someone like Anathapindika. So this girl, she was a little bit disobedient, and she got married to a servant boy within their household. But her parents didn't approve of the marriage. So what this girl and her husband did was they took off. They left Rajagaha, went on to a different village to live. So while they were residing there, after a while, this girl, she was pregnant. She was ready to give birth to a child, and then she had this craving. Oh, I really need to see my parents. I think I must go see my parents. So she conveyed this concern to her husband, and the husband like, no way, they're going to kill me. I'm just a servant of them. They must be very mad at me. So there's no way we can go. Just relax. We will be fine. But this woman was not listening. So what she did was one day when the husband left to work, so she took off without informing her husband. And then, but she was about to give birth to the child. On the way, she had to sit down, and then she delivered the baby. So luckily, the husband came looking for her, and they met her on the way. Like she was under a tree with this newborn baby. And guess what, boys and girls? So that was a baby boy. And so, have you heard there's a language called Pali? So this at the time of the Supreme Buddha, that was the language they used to use. So that's called Pali. Because the boy was born on the road, by the side of the road, so the parents named him Pantaka. So what's the name? Pantaka. Boys and girls, Pantaka means the road, right? Because he was born by the roadside, so he was named as the road. Like in the Pali, it's a nice name. So anyway, so they went back to their house, and the time went by, and guess what? So she was pregnant again. So, and then same thing happened. So when she was getting closer to give birth to the second child, she again had this craving to go see her parents, right? So again, she complained to the husband saying, I need to go see my parents. Like this is the time they're going to love these kids. Please take me to see my parents. And the husband, again, he said no. I'm so scared to go. So they must be still mad at me. So they're going to kill me. So I'm not going to go. Just relax. Stay at home. You will be fine. Again, boys and girls, she was not happy about the husband's words. So she waited until husband went to work. And then she took the elder son, and then she left the house to go see her parents in the city called Rajagaha. Again, she was about to deliver the baby, and so she sat down by the roadside. She gave birth to another boy, and same thing happened. Her husband went home after work. She wasn't at home, so he rushed to look for the wife and the elder son, and found them by the roadside. So, do you remember what was the name of the elder son? Pantaka. So, and then the second son was also born by the roadside. They named the elder one Mahapantaka, which means big Pantaka, and the younger one Chula Pantaka. Chula means small Pantaka. So Mahapantaka and Chula Pantaka. So they went back. So the time went by. The kids, the two boys, were growing up little by little. So one day, these two boys, after they were playing with their friends, they came back home and complained to their mom, saying, Mother, All of our friends are asking where are our relatives, why we don't have any relatives. All of them have relatives. All of our friends have relatives. They go visit their relatives, and the relatives come to visit us. How come we don't have anyone? And then the mother said, "Oh, dear sons, we do have relatives. Like the wealthy merchant in the Rajagaha, the city of Rajagaha, is your grandfather. But because they disapproved my marriage to your father, that's why we have no connections." And so this went back and forth. And then the wife, when the husband came back home, he said, "Dear husband, these kids are even worried about not having relatives. I think this is the time for us to go back to see my parents. They're going to love these kids. Look at them. Look how sweet these boys are. Soon as they see these boys, they're going to love them. They're going to accept us as their daughter, right?" But the husband said, "You know what? I'm not going. But if you're insisting, I will bring you to the city of Rajaka. I will bring you to your parents. But you can go inside. I'm not going to come. I'm going to stay outside the gate." And she said, "That's fine. As long as you take us there, that's fine. I'm happy." So boys and girls, so they all got together and then got ready, and then they went to the city of Rajaka. What do you think would have happened? Do you think the parents of that lady would have accepted all of them? Let's see. So when they reached to the palace, the lady's father's palace, so she went to the security guard and said, "I am the daughter of the merchant. Please let him know that I have come with my family. I have two boys. Please let him know." And then so the servant went to the merchant and said, "Inform that your daughter has come. So what do I do?" And then the wealthy merchant said, he gave some money to the guard and told him to go back, give the money to the daughter, and tell her, "In this long journey of birth and death, I have had so many daughters, but she broke our hearts. She was disobedient. She took off without our permission with someone we would have approved, right? So tell her we do not want her here. If she likes, she can send her boys in and take the money and leave." So the guard went and said to the woman, "So this is what your father said." So she was very upset, but she took the money. She accepted the money, and she sent off her two sons to the father. Boys and girls, these two boys were very, very lucky. Of course, the Chula Pantaka, the small Pantaka was tiny. He was not big enough to understand what's going on. But Mahapantaka, he was very happy with his grandparents. So his grandfather used to go to the Veluna Rama to see the Supreme Buddha and to listen to the Dhamma. So Mahapantaka would also join his grandfather every day. And then, boys and girls, the time went by, and Mahapantaka one day said to his grandfather, "Grandfather, now I understand how dangerous this life, the samsara is, the journey of life and birth is. I wish I could attain and become a monk and escape from this samsara. And if grandfather approves that, I would like to become a monk." And goes like this. His grandfather, he had so much faith in the Supreme Buddha. So, of course, he was very excited. He was very pleased. And he said, "Yes, my son, you can definitely become a monk. You can definitely ordain." So he took Mahapantaka to the Supreme Buddha. And when they arrived in front of the Supreme Buddha asked, "Householder, who is this little boy?" And because he has never seen Mahapantik before, right? So then the merchant responded saying, "Bante, this is my grandson. So he used to come with me to listen to the Dhamma every day. Now he's showing an interest to become a monk and escape from the samsara, right? Realize the Four Noble Truths." And then Supreme was very pleased, and he asked the other monks, to help this little boy and ordain him. So Mahapantaka became a monk. So by the name Mahapantaka. So boys and girls, after a very short time, this Mahapantaka Pante, he made so much of it and he was able to realize the Four Nobles. So he became an Arahant. So while he was, residing happily as an Arahant, he thought, I would say I was so lucky to be able to ordain and learn this Dhamma and become an Arahant. I should help my brother too. I should help him to escape from all these sufferings, right? So he met with his grandfather. He said to the grandfather, householder, I think I would like to help my brother as well. So why don't you ordain him as well, right? And then his grandfather was very pleased, and he gave his permission for Chula Panthaka also to become a monk. So boys and girls, so Mahapantaka was an Arahant. Mahapantaka was residing at Velunarama, and Chula Pantaka Thera was also there. So Mahapantaka, Arahant Mahapantaka was trying to teach Chula Pantaka just one stanza with 4 lines. How many lines, boys and girls? Just 4 lines. It took 4 months, but guess what? Chula Pantaka still could not he still could not memorize those 4 lines. Do you know why? Boys and girls, sometimes we also, make fun of our friends who cannot memorize things, right? Who are not seem to be very smart in schoolwork. But Chula Pantaka did similar thing in a previous life. He was very smart. He could memorize anything, but he made fun of someone else who could not remember anything. So that's it. So the reason why he cannot memorize just the 4 lines in 4 months, that's the reason behind it. That's the cause behind it. So next time when you're making fun of others, boys and girls, remember that what goes around comes around, right? Whatever the good and bad actions you do, it's going to come back to us somehow, right? So anyways, and then one day Arahant Mahapantaka said, come on, you cannot, it has taken 4 months went by and you still cannot remember these things. I don't think you're suitable for this monkhood. I think you should go home. Chula Pantaka was very upset. He got very upset. He was very sad, and because even he didn't know the reason behind why he cannot memorize these 4 lines. Right? It took 4 months, and anyway, so Chula Pantaka wanted to go because Arahant, his brother, Arahant Mahapantaka, told him to go. So he went to the gate of the Velunarama. He was not happy to leave. He was not ready to leave. He sat down by the gate and he was crying. And guess who came at the time? The Supreme Buddha, the most compassionate being in the whole world, right? So the Supreme Buddha arrived and then asked Chula Pantaka, what are you doing here? And why are you crying? And then the Chula Pantaka very sadly said, oh Bhante, my brother was trying to teach me 4 lines, like just one stanza with 4 lines for the last 4 years, but I cannot remember anything. I cannot memorize that no matter what I do, right? And then he said, so my brother said for me to leave, I'm not suitable for the monkhood. And then Supreme Buddha said, you ordained for me, not for anyone else. So I am the one who should tell you to go. I'm the one who should decide whether you're going to stay or leave, right? So come with me inside. And then the Supreme Buddha held Chula Pantaka Thero's hand and took him inside. So they went near the Supreme Buddha's dwelling, where the Supreme Buddha's kuti was. And then the Supreme Buddha asked Chula Pantaka to sit down. And Supreme Buddha gave Chula Pantaka a very clean piece of white cloth and asked him to rub it, right? Like just like this. So he asked him to rub it. And so but there was something important. So Supreme would advise Chulapantaka, so while rubbing, you have to say something, you have to utter something. Do you know what? This is funny. You might find this very silly version, but there's a very great reason behind it. So Supreme would ask Chulapantaka to say, I'm removing dirt, I'm removing dirt, I'm removing dirt. So in Pali it says Rajo Harana, Rajo Harana, Rajo Harana. So Chulapantaka was kept on doing this, and it was midday, and so he was sweating, and then after a while, boys and girls, so Chulapantaka realized the white, the so clean white cloth was getting dirty. But he didn't have any dirt in his hand, right? He was just like rubbing. So and then, boys and girls, guess what? So Chulapantaka, you know why Supreme Buddha did that? Because in a previous life, Chulapantaka was born as a king. So one day, when he was going out of town in his vehicle, like it was midday, so he was sweating, right? So he took a piece of white cloth, maybe a handkerchief, like a very clean white handkerchief. So he swept his face with the piece of white cloth, and then he realized, like, how dirty it become, right? And then he realized, like, no matter how much we keep this body, like no matter how much effort we take to keep this body clean, it's still dirty. So realizing that the nature of the body, that king, he left his kingship, and then he became a monk, right? So that's the Supreme Buddha knew that. Chulapantaka had no idea about this, but Supreme Buddha knew that, and then that's why Supreme Buddha asked Chulapantaka to rub that piece of cloth. So anyway, because Chulapantaka had that practice in a previous life, so that came back to him. And then Supreme Buddha taught him the Dhamma, and in a very short time, Chulapantaka became an Arahant. Nobody knew about this. Nobody knew that Chulapantaka has become an Arahant, just the Supreme Buddha and Chulapantaka, right? So the next day, everyone was ready to go for the meals. And so the person who was offering the meals to the Sangha, so he came to offer water to the Supreme Buddha. So what Supreme Buddha did was, he did not accept. So he covered his bowl, the rice bowl, with his hand and said, there's another monk in the monastery. And then Mahapantaka Theru said, no Bhante, there's no other the monks, like everyone's here. And then the Supreme Buddha again said to the person who's offering the alms, like his name is Jivaka, said, Jivaka, there's another monk in the monastery. And then the Jivaka said to one of his servants, go and get that monk. There's a monk in the monastery. And then so this servant went to the monastery, and guess what, boys and girls? Supreme Buddha said there's only one monk. But the whole monastery was filled with so many monks. And he ran back to the house and said his boss, like Jivaka, there are so many monks, right? I don't know which one to bring. And then Supreme Buddha said, go back and ask whose Chulapantaka Bhakta is. And then he did. So he went there and asked, so which one is Chulapantaka? And then all of them at once said, I am Chulapantaka. This poor servant, he was so confused, and then he ran back to the monastery and said, when I asked who's Chulapantaka is, everyone was answering. I don't know which one is Chulapantaka. The Supreme Buddha said, go back and ask the same question, and then the first one to say I'm Chulapantaka, hold his hand and then bring him. So, and then he did. So he went back to the monastery and asked the same question, who's Chulapantaka? So the very first person responded, he held his hand. And then everyone else disappeared. So that was illusional, right? So this Bhante, he was an Arahant. So he created all of those illusions. So it was like magic, boys and girls. So Chulapantaka Bhante also joined the alms. And then after taking the meals, Chulapantaka Bhante, who couldn't even remember 4 lines in 4 months, he taught Dhamma to all the people who had participated, right? So boys and girls, these monks were discussing like the person who Chulapantaka couldn't even memorize 4 lines in 4 months. How did he? How was he able to preach Dhamma so beautifully? So they were discussing how even Mahapantaka, Chulapantaka's own brother, couldn't recognize his qualities and his abilities. But the Supreme Buddha, like, instantly was able to help Chulapantaka to remove all of his weaknesses and attain the arahantship, become an arahant, right? So while they were discussing, the Supreme Buddha arrives in the hall and asks the bhikkhus, like, what are you all talking about? What's this discussions about? And then they all said, Bhante, we were discussing how Chulapantaka Thero was able to preach the Dhamma beautiful. Even his brother couldn't recognize his abilities. But Bhante, Supreme Buddha only, could help Chulapantaka. We were so amazed by the Supreme Buddha's the greatness, right? And then Bosanaga Supreme Buddha said, dear monks, not only in this life, even in a previous life, Chulapantaka took my advice and he became a very wealthy merchant. And boys and girls, just like all the other times, all the monks are so excited and they ask the Supreme Buddha, Bhante, please tell us the story. We would love to hear the previous story of how Chulapantaka took Bhante's advice and became a wealthy merchant. So boys and girls, you will also have to wait until next week to listen to that story because that is a very beautiful story. Let's see if we can practice a little bit of patience. Patience is an amazing quality that we can apply to our lives too. I will see you next week. Keep your fingers crossed. Tervan Saranai, Namo Buddhaya.